So now we're potentially days away from rent control being sent to the governor's desk. And the lawmaker who is the prime sponsor of that is employed to the tune of around $200,000 a year by an advocacy organization that is in Olympia lobbying for that very bill that on the first day of session she helped vote on as a member of the House so she could quickly move over to the Senate and make sure it had enough votes there too. That's nuts. So Senator Emily Alvarado is the key sponsor of the rent control bill, which has now, by the way, passed out of Senate Ways and Means. So that means it's heading for a vote on the floor of the Senate. And if it passes there, it's heading to the governor's desk for his signature. So we're getting dangerously close to putting our state in one hell of a housing predicament. But Senator Emily Alvarado, this is her child.
Washingtonians are asking for pragmatic solutions to stop unnecessary and excessive rent increases. That's what this bill does.
So over the weekend, our friend Glenn Morgan, who operates We the Governed, he's like a great government watchdog, he filed an ethics complaint. The headline, ethics complaint filed against Washington lawmaker behind rent stabilization bill. Glenn Morgan, in his complaint, said in particular, Alvarado is in violation of an RCW that has to do with activities incompatible with public duties, and with RCW 4252-110 because of her employment with an organization that engages in lobbying efforts. Okay, so she's employed full-time in her day job by an organization that engages in lobbying efforts. Okay, well, what's her role in the lobbying efforts, and what does this organization do? I bet you already know where I'm going with this. The article goes on to say, Senator Alvarado is a vice president for Pacific Northwest markets for Enterprise Community Partners. According to its website, she, quote, oversees Enterprise's work in Washington and Oregon to create and preserve affordable homes and bring programmatic solutions to scale through policy advocacy. Okay, so she is a regional vice president for an organization that advocates for affordable housing. Let's continue. She's getting, this is from Glenn Morgan, quoted in the Center Square, she's getting substantial compensation for her work on housing policy from her non-legislative employer, who is lobbying for the very bill that she's promoting, HB 1217. So they're basically, in Glenn Morgan's words, paying her and then lobbying to make sure that a bill she's backing gets passed. So strip politics out of it. Imagine this was a Republican state senator. They work full-time for an organization that actively lobbies and pushes for a bill that that lawmaker is the chief sponsor of in the legislature. If there's not a more obvious conflict of interest than that. But something I want to go dig into deeper that wasn't in the Center Square story is how Senator Alvarado financially benefits from all of this. And again, you could think maybe there's an innocent explanation for some of the stuff I'm about to show you. But when you take it in combination with all the other really shady stuff that's going on, it starts to paint a picture for you. So now Senator Emily Alvarado was first elected to the state house in 2022. Okay, that's very important. Now, as part of being in elected office, you have to file your financial disclosures with the Public Disclosure Commission. So this basically includes any companies you work for, any pay that you receive, any assets that you own, just honestly, as a way to sort of show any conflicts of interest that might exist, any sort of investments lawmakers might have, or any sort of stake they might have in some of the policies that they're pushing. So at the time in 2022, when she filed her first public affairs or financial affairs disclosure, she was employed then by this company, Enterprise Community Partners, as an area vice president. That was her title back then. It's her title now. Now, you have to report your income, and it's based on a pay range. So you don't report your exact income. You choose one of the pay ranges that they provide to you. So at the time in 2022, the income pay range was $60,000 to $99,000. So that was the one that she selected. So she gets into the state house. She immediately starts pushing for rent control. So we looked up her financial disclosures for 2023, 2024, and 2025. Now, this is as a state lawmaker who is now actively pushing rent control, a policy supported by her full-time employer. Her pay immediately jumps up. In 2023, it went from $60,000 to $99,000 to $100,000 to $199,000. In 2024, it went to $200,000 to $500,000, somewhere in that pay range. And then in 2025, she reported an income between $100,000 and $199,000. So taking those into consideration, my guess is she makes around $200,000 a year. And in 2024, it maybe bumped right past 200,000, so it put her into that higher bracket. So her pay doubles just like that. You'll also notice her title was the same. Her title didn't change, area vice president. So the only thing that changed from 2022 in the financial disclosures to 2023, 2024, and 2025 is that she went from not being a lawmaker to being elected a lawmaker, actively pushing for a policy, rent control, that her full-time employer is down in Olympia lobbying for. Just like that. Up in the next pay bracket. Sounds suspicious to you? It does. It is suspicious. And even if she offers some sort of innocent explanation for all of this, it's a flagrant rule violation. And it doesn't look good. And that's the problem with conflicts of interest. A conflict of interest, and the reason why you need to disclose them and be transparent about the activity and what you might be engaged in and recuse yourself if necessary, we talk about this all the time with judges, is conflict of interest. You might be able to work past it. You might still be able to call balls and strikes or whatever it is, but to the public, it doesn't look good. And it doesn't look like you're operating in good faith. So now we're potentially days away from rent control being sent to the governor's desk. And the lawmaker who is the prime sponsor of that is employed to the tune of around $200,000 a year by an advocacy organization that is in Olympia lobbying for that very bill that on the first day of session she helped vote on as a member of the House so she could quickly move over to the Senate and make sure it had enough votes there too. That's nuts.